Hi everybody, Nick here. I got a review for you today of a gem. This is the Benchmade 941, or 940-1, I'll just say 941, which is an upgraded version of the Benchmade 940. And it's a really nice knife, and I'd like to talk about it, so I'll do a quick review, a good, bad, and ugly. The good. S90V steel is good. I had to sharpen it up when I got it. That's okay. It didn't fight me that hard compared to something like M4, and took a nice edge and seems to be keeping it. So good, no complaints. Carbon fiber. The handles are carbon fiber, and they are solid carbon fiber. I hope you can see that. These are really nice feeling. There's no wobble to them. There's no flex. They're solid. And so they feel like a solid chunk of something. If you told me this was metal, it doesn't feel quite like it, but I'd believe it in terms of strength. So that's good. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel janky. It's not like some of the other manufacturers with carbon fiber who put a little bit of carbon fiber on top of a bunch of G10 or something like that. This is solid CF, and I like that. I appreciate that. Because of that, it's a really lightweight knife. This kind of disappears in your pocket, even more so if you ask Benchmade for a deep carry clip. I'm still waiting. Thanks, Benchmade. The blade shape is a freaking gem. I love this blade shape a lot because you got a lot of nice flat surface here, and you get some belly and a nice tip, but it's not a big scary shape. It's not like the ZTO 450 where it's got a very pointy tip. This is nice in that way. This is a really good compromise in terms of blade shape. So I like that a lot. The axis lock is great. That's this device here, and that's how this knife locks. You can see when I open the knife, it slides a little over, and then when I close the knife, pops back in. From the top, you can see when I start to close the knife, I shift it that way, which allows the blade to swing free, and then it locks back this way. The gem part of the axis lock is that you can either thumb flip it as usual, or you can use gravity to do it, or centripetal force, more like. And that's kind of fun, to be able to flip it back and forth. It's hard when you've got a camera right over your table here, but you can flip the knife back and forth, which is fun. It's like a balisong for those of us who are not coordinated. And it's very legal pretty much everywhere. So that's nice. And in order to do that, you have to engage the lock. You have to pull this back with your thumb and forefinger, and that allows it to drop free. Otherwise, you're just going to look like an idiot. And then the pivot is very smooth, and you can probably see that. It benefits well from some lubricant. The nano oil works wonders here, absolute wonders. But that's something also to keep in mind. So it's a great steel, good handle material, it's a lightweight blade, it's a great blade shape, good axis lock, and the pivot is smooth. And the design overall is great. This is, I believe, Warren Osborne. I know it's Osborne, I think it's Warren. And he actually just died in the last month or so, and the knife industry lost somebody pretty awesome. Because pretty much everything that everybody loves that Benchmade made, he designed. And so that is a shame. But the design of this knife is spectacular. There's a reason I always tell people this is the very best thing that Benchmade makes, and the 941 is the very best version of that. So, you really should check one of these out during your life if you're some kind of a knife nut. Whether you just like fancy things, or whether you're, a hard use, this is a good this is a good knife for you as a person. So, it's a really good knife. The bad is almost all, no, actually, it's entirely fit and finish stuff. So Benchmade has really good designs, but they make them kind of crappily, especially given their price, which is not good for them. So what I mean by that, you get things like blade centering. The blade centering here is not good. It's almost touching on this side here. Not a good thing out of a $270 knife. It's ridiculous. The grind, when I got it, the person said that they hadn't done any sharpening to it, and it looks like other Benchmade, or it looked like other Benchmade edges where you get kind of fine, well, not that fine, you get coarse lines that kind of go a little bit past the grind, showing that they used a pretty coarse stone in an early pass and never cleaned it up. So it really did take a little bit of doing to undo Benchmade's grind. It was also asymmetrical. By that I mean it wasn't a perfect V, it was more like this, where one side was a lot shallower than the other side. That's a really common issue from Benchmade these days, and no, it's no good. It's bad news. The axis itself is kind of gritty here. Hear that? Yeah, Benchmade. That's the sound of you being able to do better. Kind of a shame. And, I know that's something they probably could fix. It's just a tolerance issue, and they just haven't gotten there. One bad thing about all of the axis locks is that there's a little spring. I'm pointing to something you can't see, but it's inside the handle, shaped like an omega. And when those springs break, and they do tend to break sooner or later, the knife becomes unserviceable because this part, the axis part, doesn't actually spring back at all. It just goes forward and back, or it just, flops around in there. So that's something to keep in mind, but Benchmade fixes that, no problem. And the biggest fit and finish sin in my eyes is right here. If you look inside, you can see that the liner screws, I hope you can see, yeah. The liner screws actually stick out into the blade kind of hollow here, into this cavity where the blade's supposed to sit. They don't touch the blade that I've been able to see, but that's a big cut corner. Benchmade, all you needed to do was use shorter screws, but you didn't. And that sucks. In a $270 knife, really? Really? That sucks. So, overall, my impression of this is a lot like my impression of other Benchmades, which is that it's a beautifully designed knife implemented kind of shoddily. It still works well, and functionally it's fine, but they really need to be doing better for the price points they're charging. Which brings us around to the ugly part. Benchmade sets their prices using minimum advertised pricing, which is a kind of price-fixing kind of maneuver. Some companies do it well. Spyderco's doing it by setting the prices basically at what the market can bear. And the advantage of this is that a brick-and-mortar shop will have the same price as Amazon.com or KnifeWorks or something like that, and that way the big online retailers can't put your local places out of business. And it's just the same to order from Amazon and your local guy. That's a nice thing. Problem is, when Benchmade did it, they used it to raise prices significantly. The regular 940, I bought one for $125 way back when. Then they did the map thing, and now they're up to $180. That's not a $180 knife, the regular 940. Similarly, they want $270 for this, and every online retailer new charges $270. Unless you're an REI member, by the way, they send out coupons that you can use on Benchmade. But every 941 costs $270, which is ridiculous. This is not a $270 knife. What I mean by that is this is a Sleesh Bowie by Spyderco. This is a $270 knife as well in terms of retail price. Now they're running closer to $300, but still, even as a $300 knife. This knife is really well finished. Fit and finish is spectacular on this. There aren't cut corners like ugly screws sitting out into the blade, or into the blade path, or bad grinds, or poor centering. This knife, they took the time to make it perfect. This knife, they did not. That's what I pay $270 for. The Benchmade 940 here is a $200 knife, maybe $180, depending. The materials are nice, but they're not that nice. And especially with this level of fit and finish, you don't expect that. Everybody comes in, well, if you send it back to Benchmade, they'll do the grind right, they'll recenter it, they may even shear off those screws for you. But that's the thing. If I pay $270 for a knife, my first thought is not, here, let me pay more money to ship it back to Benchmade and have them fix the damn thing. Why don't they put the guy who's putting the perfect grind and recentering, why don't they just put him at the end of the assembly line and send them out right the first damn time? I don't know. I'm not a businessman. I don't get these kinds of things. But the simple fact of the matter is that when Benchmade is making their pricing decisions, just in general across their entire line, they are taking crazy pills. I don't know what kind, but God knows I want some. Because for them to think this is a $270 knife and the presence of real $270 knives is ridiculous. The nice thing, though, is that you don't have to pay $270 for it. Go used. This is a nice knife. Benchmade has a good warranty on things. And there's not a whole lot you can do to really punish this knife, particularly in a way Benchmade can't repair it. Lurk on Reddit, or on Blade forums, or on USN, or whatever, and wait for somebody to sell one of these, because they're selling at $200, or maybe $225. Wait for somebody to sell it at that price, and that's how you buy your 941. Similarly, for your 940 regular, do not pay retail. Do not buy from Benchmade. Do not pay the butterfly tax, which Benchmade's crazy executives have decided applies to this. Buy it for what it's really worth, used. That sucks. I know I should support Benchmade, but the fact of the matter is, Benchmade as a company these days is kind of like that guy who goes on Pawn Stars with a World War II bomber's jacket and says, hey, this belonged to my grandfather. He was in the Fighting Loons Regiment. Blah, blah, blah. it's worth $10,000. And the expert comes on and says, well, it's a nice jacket. It's worth $500. And then after the thing, okay, I'll give you $9,000. And, the Rick Pawn Stars guy, I'm sorry, I can't come anywhere near that. That's, we're worlds apart. But hey, thanks for bringing it in. And that's how I feel when I look at Benchmade's price list. Hey, Benchmade, thanks for bringing it in. So buy used, I guess, is the end part of this rant. This is not a good knife. I mean, it's a very good knife, but you're getting ripped off if you pay retail for this. Flat out. But if you buy it used, if you get this knife at $200, at $220, you're doing good. Made in the USA is great, but it's not worth that much money when other companies are making in the USA with better fit and finish. So, my rant about Benchmade's crazy pricing structure aside, this is actually a really, really nice knife. This is a freaking gem. If we put the money aside and pretend that it's being, charged what it's worth, this is one of the best knives in the knife world. And I'm being dead sincere about that. I really, really like this knife, and I really like the 940. It's got a great blade shape. It's got a great handle. The carbon fiber and S90 combo is spectacular. A-OK. And, frankly, there's not a lot not to like about it. And particularly if you do send it back to Benchmade and make them get it right, this is spectacular. So get a 940. If you've got the money, go for the one. It is a real upgrade. The aluminum handles in the 940 felt really crappy in the hands. The carbon fiber feels really nice, at least to me. This is a great, great, great little knife. I just wish Benchmade was charging realistic prices for it. And I'm really pushing you to go used on this guy, because that's the way that you get a great knife at a reasonable price. Anyways, I hope this is helpful. Oh, by the way, size comparison. Spyderco Delica. This is a little bigger knife. A little more than 3-inch blade. Could use to be a little shorter, but hey, whatever. Great knife. It's a gem. 100% gem. It's an overpriced gem at retail, but it's great used. Thanks very much. I hope this is helpful, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day.